Hey everybody, in this video we're going to take a look at how we can use the NDI output feature of Unreal Engine 5.5 to create levels that we can output through our rundown broadcasts so that we can comp them outside of Unreal Engine. So I've got NDI monitor opened here, and one of the things in the settings is it's capable of doing its own overlay using alpha channel. And so we're going to output two different levels from Unreal Engine and do the overlay of them in our NDI monitor. So one thing I want to do is, first of all, create two motion design levels, one for a background, one for a foreground. I'm going to need a third level that's their common camera. And for the background, I want to use the cyclorama that is in the 3D motion design template. So I'm just going to click on that cyclorama, and in my content browser, I'm going to make sure that the settings are set up so that both show engine content and show plugin content, they're both checked so that I'll be able to find the content that's inside the motion design plugin, which of course is activated. So with this cyclorama actor selected, I've got the static mesh available in the details, and I can click the browse to button to find that asset inside the plugins folder of the engine. So now I can scroll back up in the content browser here and drag this static mesh over to content and release, and I'm going to choose copy here. And this way I've got a copy that I can use and I won't be messing with the original that's being used for the template. So going back to my content browser, I'll click on that static mesh and Control S to save it. Now I'll create my common level that's going to have my camera and lighting, so I'll right click and create a level, and we'll call this common LVL and Control S to save it, double click. And we want this to be a motion design level, so I'll activate the motion design features, and I'll go to create defaults, and I'm going to use all the defaults except for the directional light. So I'm going to uncheck directional light and click spawn. So now this common level has a camera, it's got a post process, and it's got a skylight. That's all great. So content browser, select that and Control S to save it. There we go. And now we can start building out our background level. So I'll right click, create another level, BG LVL for background level, Control S to save it, double click to open. Again, we want to use motion design, so I'll activate the motion design features for this level. Going back to the content browser, I can go ahead and drag the cyclorama into the view. Can't see anything because, well, we don't have any camera or lighting. Here is a cool feature of Unreal 5.5 motion design. I can go to the window and get the motion design outliner. I'll select that, and it goes over here next to the regular outliner. And I can take this common level that has a camera and lights and drag that into the motion design outliner, release, and now I've got lights and camera. In fact, I can go ahead to the camera and choose the Ava Cine camera that is in that common level. And so now I can select my cyclorama, tap E for rotation, and rotate that around 90 degrees. And we just need a material for that. There is a cyclorama material in the plugin content, so I can just go to element 1 for the materials with that cyclorama selected. And instead of none, I'll type in CYC for cyclorama and the MI Cyc 1. So there we go. Now we've got that material, we've got lighting, we've got a camera view. Wonderful. So I'll select BG level here in content and Control S to save it. And now we just need our foreground level. So right click, new level, FG LVL, foreground level, Control S to save it, double click to open it. I'll go ahead and activate motion design functionality and go to, well, we're not going to need to use the content browser for this one. Actually, I am. I'm going to add that common level so we have the same camera. And so I'll go to Window, Motion Design Outliner, activate that, and drag that common level. So we have camera and lighting. Make sure we are looking through the Ava Cine camera. And finally, make sure we're in motion design mode. Great. Actors over here from the motion design toolbar, and double click on text actor. So now we have some text. Let's select that text actor, and over here in its details, we'll change this to the word overlay so we're really clear about what we're doing here. Let's center that text and maybe scale it up. We're locked proportionally, so we can make this nice and large and bring this, like about there. Let's make that bold, and of course we will also scroll down to the geometry, do a little bit of extrusion and probably a little bit of beveling, and I'll also go down here to the bevel color, and let's just darken that a little bit so that the bevel stands out a little bit more. Okay, so we've got this level all set, and so I'll select the foreground level and Control S to save it. All right, so now all we want to do is set up our rundown playlist so we can output both of these on separate NDI channels. So right click, motion design rundown. And let's see, what are we going to call this? Well, I'm just going to hit enter and accept the default new rundown. Control S to save, double click to open. And we have our templates, we have our pages, we have our preview, and we also have broadcast. So let's set up our NDI output channels. So I'll hit broadcast, and this will give us a window where we have a default channel 0. I'm going to use this for the background, but I'm going to need a second channel for the foreground. So I'll click the new channel button. Now I've got 2 different output channels. And both of these will be NDI, but we'll set each one up a little bit differently. So I'm going to go to our output devices, and we have NDI media output as part of our plugins, and that's activated. So we'll drag NDI over here and select that channel output. I will name this BG. And let's see, what else are we going to do? We'll just output fill. We don't need alpha for this. Our desired resolution is going to be 1920 by 1080. Very good. And we'll just do 30 frames a second for this. And so that's the output for channel 0, the background, just the fill at HD resolution 30 frames. Channel 1 will also need an NDI output. We will call that output FG for foreground. We will output fill and key here so that we get an alpha channel. I'm not going to invert that alpha channel. And the desired resolution, again, is going to be 1920 by 1080. And we'll also match that 30 frames per second. So 1920 by 1080. Foreground is the name, fill and key. And background is 1920 by 1080, same frame rate. Okay, so we've got our broadcast channels all set up. Let's go back to rundown. I'm going to take the background layer and background level, bring that in as a template. I'm going to take the foreground level and bring that in as a template. Let's do Control Shift S to save everything while we're at it. And finally, I will Shift select both of these templates and drag them into my pages panel. So now I've got a background and a foreground. I want the background to go out channel 0. And I want the foreground, though, that needs to go out channel 1. So now when we take these in for broadcast, the foreground's going to go out channel 1, the background's going out channel 0. So let's select both of those and take in. And we don't see them in preview. If I go to broadcast, though, we can see here's our background and here's our overlay. So let's check NDI by starting all our broadcast channels. And now these are both live and they should be outputting via NDI. So let's go back to the NDI monitor. And our background, we'll select our BG. And there is our background. And then for settings, overlay, we've got overlay saying use the alpha channel. And in this case, I'll bring in foreground. And I guess we do need to invert that alpha channel. Okay, so I will go ahead and stop my channels for a second here. And let's go ahead and invert that key and start all those channels again. Let's check this and make sure. There we go. So that's it. We're now outputting the overlay. And so I guess, yeah, honor the defaults. The developers know what they're doing. Invert that key so that we'll get the overlay over the background. I hope this helps. Until next time, have fun.